Thank you for meeting us back here for Game 3. Korea's Damwon Gaming versus Flamengo Esports from the CB LOL. So for the first time we're seeing a Flamengo, and while Brazilian fans might be sweating over the caliber of opponents, it does not downplay just how excited they are to see their super team compete, especially when you consider the road Flamengo took to get here.
Oh yeah, and these fans have been waiting for so long because ever since Flamengo came into the CB LOL, they've played 3 splits now. They made it to the finals in all 3 splits, but for the first 2, they lost Game 5, went full 5 games, and they fell in Game 5. It was just this last summer that they finally won that Game 5 and were able to make it here in the first place.
Absolutely, and the CB LOL as a region is a very proud region with some great history behind it. Everyone remembers the kaboom that happened. However,
he really remembers it.
It is scrubbed from memory. Kaboom never happened.
However, in the last 3 Worlds, Trevor, they haven't done as well. They've only been able to take up the last 3 international tournaments. They've only been able to pick up the single victory. Now, that hasn't been Flamengo. That's been INTZ. That has been Kaboom returning to the international stage. So I'm so excited to see what this team can actually do and whether they can shake up this group.
Of course, BRTT back on the international stage. And a lot of fans, especially LCS fans, might recognize Shrimp. He did play in the LCS. And after what Flamengo saw from Damwon earlier today, I caught up with BRTT very briefly, and there's an air of confidence and acknowledgement of how difficult the game is, but they're looking forward to this matchup.
And especially when you examine the bot lane performance from Nuclear. I think BRTT and Lucy, as sort of the power couple on this team, are going to feel very good coming into this matchup, because in a lot of Flamengo's wins, it is that bot lane duo gaining these early game advantages and then punishing poor play in the bottom lane. I think that after seeing this Game 1 from Damwon, they're thinking, hey, we can maybe do this ourselves.
Absolutely, and I think that if you get rid of the Xayah and try and force Nuclear onto the Kai'Sa, you have options in the Draven and in the Lucian to try and really go at that duo lane. I think that it will be fairly telegraphed what Damwon want to be able to play in that bottom lane, and that could be an area that Flamengo looks to attack.
I love the champions, too, that BRTT will pull out, like the Draven, but also Lucy, known for these aggressive playmaking supports. When Lucy sees a window to make a play, he'll take it every time.
Now, let's talk a little bit about expectations for this matchup. Obviously, Damwon, still a heavy favorite. Let's talk about their game performance from Game 1. It never felt like they were at risk, right? It never felt like they were really going to lose the game. They were even, but you had 2 scaling solo laners with Klepto that were significantly ahead of their opponents, and Nuguri just came in and literally instigate people right at the end.
Form is temporary, class is timeless, and you can see that with Nuguri as well as Showmaker, they have 2 very classy solo laners. These guys were just willing to take the Kleptomancy. They built huge individual leads and then were able to run over teams.
Take a look at the damage that pops out there. I mean, Nuclear ends up getting the triple at the end, but it was not his damage, I think is what Frostgurn was trying to say.
So online, I saw a lot of comments saying this game looked like a 2v5 from Damwon.
Yep.
I have to say, I completely agree. It was literally just the solo laners trying to drag the rest of the team. I think Canyon was like half alive, but they were trying to drag him across for a win.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess that is the good news for Damwon fans, right? Canyon, not a great first game. Beryl certainly not up to the standard that we're used to seeing. So if they're able to get, one more person included in the play, it will become slightly easier. By the best of 5, you're hoping you got 4 or 5 people online, and then you should start rolling if you're Damwon.
Let's talk a little bit about expectation setting here. Now, Flamengo specifically with BRTT, knowing their playstyle as well, when that bottom lane gets ahead, they are able to unlock victories, at least in the CB LOL. This is a much more difficult task, but BRTT is looking up to the challenge.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think that they can win this bottom lane. But I don't know how well Robo and Goku are going to stand up in the solo lanes. So I'm expecting a very similar performance, but potentially not even the same level of solo laners as we saw from the TCL lineup. So it's one of those things like, is there hope? Is there an area you can attack? Sure, but unless you can deal with Nuguri or Showmaker, take one of them out of the game, it becomes so difficult.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Just in terms of, yes, there's a clear plan for these guys, but you have to hope you can get some favorable matchups for Robo to hold on up top lane. I think for him, a really solid champion has always been that Aurelia. On other stuff, he has looked much less confident. So I come into this game, I think, very similar to yesterday when we saw Clutch get beaten in Game 1 and bounce back for Game 2. Damwon looked shaky in Game 1, still won it. I think they're going to look in fine form for this one.
And of course, for Flamengo, this is now the litmus test. You're now going to see how both of the teams below Damwon perform against the #1 seed, and it gets to set up some expectations for a matchup later in the day. 2 teams advance to the knockouts of play-ins. They are almost ready on stage. So let's talk a little bit more maybe about the jungle matchup, and in particular how this could play out. You touched a little bit on Canyon's first game. You know, what do you want to see him shake up coming into this matchup?
Well, I just want to see some of that Canyon flair that I'm used to when I go and watch the LCK, because I genuinely think he's one of the smartest, most creative pathing junglers out there. This is a guy that will see a dive opportunity a minute and a half before it happens and then skip some of his buffs just so he can run up to a lane and make that happen. So it's these types of plays that you can't prepare for. You don't see coming until, you know, you're in the heat of the moment in the game that no teams are going to expect. I think that's where he can pounce.
Yeah, and that's where I think that Shrimp can follow suit of something we saw yesterday be quite successful in the Skarner. It's one of the quickest junglers, and it deals with explosive solo laners really well. If you can just grab Nuggery at the start of the fight, or if you can just grab Showmaker and make them useless, or make them invest some of that well-earned gold into a QSS, there is an area that you can help rebuff some of these attacks.
Do have to cut you off, and I thank you very much for wrapping up just in time. Spawn, let's head on stage for Game 3 of the day.
As we turn back to Group D, please join me in welcoming a team making their first appearance at League of Legends World Championship. From Brazil, Cibilo, it's Flamengo Esports! One more time, guys. Hear it for Flamengo Esports.
Back, ladies and gentlemen, Game 3 of the day in Damwon. They didn't necessarily look like the dominant force that we may have expected, and our Brazilian representatives certainly have a lot of fans in the crowd today. Is that fandom going to be enough to get them across the line?
I'm gonna tell you real quick. BRTT rocked out here. He's got some very rare sneakers, the SpongeBob collab.
Of course.
I am now actually also a fan. I was like, that is some sweet footwear on right now. But as you're saying, Damwon coming in. Yes, it was a 2v7? Is that what we're gonna call
I
it?
think just 2v5, okay? I think more absentee rather than defecting. It was the rest of Damwon.
It was a Showmaker and Nuguri special here, and I think the blueprint has been set out for Flamengo about how they want to attack, and it does start with this guy on your screen. Now, they can attack through BRTT. He's a very aggressive laner, and I actually think that maybe you could even bait giving away the Xayah pick. I know that Jake on the analyst desk was talking about maybe forcing Nuclear on Kai'Sa, you know, get him away from the Xayah so he doesn't have so much safety. But Draven into Xayah,
Oh yeah, feels good.
is a great matchup for BRTT, and I would love to see a Draven into a Xayah matchup.
And he looks pumped up as well on your screen right there. So let's see what they can do as we get into Champion Select for game number 3. Already, Cat on a Book going to be banned away, not going to be able to augment the power of BRTT this time around. The man has been synonymous with Brazilian League of Legends for so damn long. Fantastic to see him on the stage once again, as the Draven is banned.
He's, when the LCK third seed pays you respect.
Well, I mean, to be honest, they've banned a few Dravens so far.
Nico's like, he's a Draven player, I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah. Ghost, our resident Draven player of the LCK, yeah, that was what Damwon decided to get rid of when up against Sandbox Gaming, and it's going to be the same here up against Flamengo, who are taking away the power picks on this patch, and then Canyon's Gragas going to hit the bench. Of course, in Korea, Gragas, the priority, gigantic on 916.
But that's the priority on a Renekton first pick. And we've been talking about it a little bit throughout the day, that it feels like teams are misplaced. Damonte and Clutch really kind of got, I'm going to say, soft flamed by their priority on the Renekton. We just saw Quinn taken into it and how abusive it can be. So let's see what Damwon have in store with this pick, or if Nuguri or Showmaker are just so much better at piloting this champion.
Already, I like how Flamengo's composition is coming together. A lot of space control, a lot of zoning capabilities with the Nico and the Thresh, often paired together as Canyon gets his hands on his favorite champion at the moment. It is the Taliyah. And speaking of favorite champions, of course, Nuclear going to go towards the Kai'Sa if he can get it. It's not going to be the Elise combination with the Renekton, but we've seen in the past that this combo is about as punishing.
Yeah, there's still so much potential for getting around the map as quickly as possible, setting up that dive. You don't necessarily need your jungler to take the damage when you have a Renekton, pending on the matchup there. So my eyes are on Robo. What is he going to find? Is that going to be the Nico in the top lane for him in a ranged matchup to try to deal with this Renekton? Or when he sees the Talia and the potential of a dive coming in, is he going to look for something that's, okay, you're going to dive me and I need to be ready to take that type of aggression?
Well, still yet to know who's going to be playing the Renekton. My feeling is that it's going to be Showmaker. He did play a lot more games on the champion, and Damwon do love to pick late for Noguri. They like to get him into a position where his pick is providing as much surprise as possible. And look, albeit they are on the blue side, so not able to really surprise Flamengo that much. But as we're seeing in the bans, that Xayah that we were talking about before is going to be taken away from BRTT.
Barrel's Alistar might make it through, however.
Yeah, that could be frightening. That being said, I mean, how
Yeah,
worried
that's what
are
I
you
thought.
about it?
I'm very
They're
worried.
pretty worried. They're pretty worried.
I think you have to respect ban Alistar, especially at this stage in the World Championship. Again, we'll probably see Barrel pull out his Alistar at some point during this championship. He is amazing on it.
He certainly is. I think that Barrel's Alistar is not necessarily a laning phase ban. And I think that if Flamengo are going to attack Damwon, they need to attack the laning phase, which is what my argument would be for leaving the Alistar available. Because I feel like if they're getting to a point where, you know, Damwon are comfortably team fighting, then you've probably got pretty close to losing anyway.
This is probably going to be BRTT's pickup right there. Okay, so I did want him to go for something with a lot more firepower in the lane phase. He had a couple of different bans thrown at him in the Draven and the Xayah, so I was like, he's got the access to things like Lucian, like Caitlyn, like Ezreal. Now the thing is whenever Caitlyn's in a game in Europe, is they decide to split the map and force vertical jungling. So Caitlyn has to play weak side, and she doesn't get to abuse her long range and how dominant she is in the map. I'm unsure if Damwon will look to do the same thing, but typically Caitlyn as a pick doesn't work in the LEC because of that strategy.
Well, this is most likely the rise in the hands of Noguri, as Barrel's going to lock away the Pyke. We've got Pyke Kai'Sa against the Thresh and the Caitlyn on the bottom side of the map. Certainly spicy, but that range advantage is certainly going to be there for BRTT.
And it could also mean that Barrel doesn't have to sit in that lane phase. You know, if things start going sideways in that 2v2 bot side, Barrel can be like, see ya, mate, just hard farm this one out. Caitlyn's going to push it into you, and he starts roaming around with Canyon.
Well, that is an Aatrox, and that is still going to be locked in. Flamengo valuing the comfort on the champion, regardless of what the numbers may say on 919.
And of course, if you look at the recent nerfs to Aatrox, it was his wave clear that was particularly hurt. Lost a lot of damage when he's using that Q on the minions itself. And that means that he doesn't just get to force you under a tower and kind of chunk you out with those Qs. Still, if he lands triple Q on you, it is going to hurt. But against something like a Ryze who can root you up and kind of maneuver around you, I think this is going to be a really tough matchup.
Yeah, could be really scary here. As we expected, Showmaker is looking like he's going to be on the Renekton. 21 seconds. And that is going to be confirmed. So Damwon, I like this composition a little bit more than what they showed us in their first outing. Felt a little bit like a show match with the fact that Showmaker got to play on his LeBlanc, with the fact that Noguri was on his Vladimir. This time this composition looks a lot more fluid because the gank assist for Canyon is outrageous.
Just set up and lock them down. You got the CC from the Renekton, the CC from the Ryze, and Canyon can just rock in, flip them back, and have so much damage to get away from. Now, I want to talk about zone control right now, because BRTT is on the Caitlyn, one of our longest range champions in the game. You said at the very beginning, when you see things like Nico, like Thresh, there's so much zone control for Flamengo. On the other side, Damwon actually have some pretty short range champions. Kai'Sa mid-range ADC, Ryze mid-range, and then Renekton as the melee champion. So I'm curious, how do Damwon actually break through that zone control? Can Flamengo keep their ADC safe? Can they keep Damwon away from him and allow these team fights to go through longer, to walk through?
I think it's about Flamengo getting vision so that they can deny flanks from Damwon, if it's going to be me. But ladies and gentlemen, here we are, our third game of the day. Damwon taking on Flamengo.
And they certainly have the sixth man of the crowd behind them.
Damn right they do, and maybe they'll need it moving into this one as well. As we described Damwon's first game as feeling like they were on a European holiday, hopefully this is going to feel a little bit more serious, as Damwon already piling in.
I mean, if they want a
The enemy
vacation
jungle?
in France, they definitely need to tighten things up.
Yep.
Again, we talked about that blueprint that Royal Youth were able to run through at Damwon and really punish Nuclear and Beryl in particular. So we'll see. I talked about the split map that usually happens onto Caitlyn to force her to play weak side so she can't be really abusive. You do see an immediate invade and a lot of vision being placed around, figuring out where Shrimp is going to start on this Rek'Sai. So my eyes are on Canyon's pathing and what he's going to do with this information.
Yeah. Expecting a red to Krug start, which is, of course, the fastest way to get towards that level 3. An understandable thing, as you can see, a potential interesting situation if you're looking at the vision, but it's not actually BRTT up there. There have been some lane swaps across the world, but we'll see.
A delayed invade. And we may actually see the split map, but it's actually Damwon who are allowing the potential for Caitlyn to play strong side. Now, this can do two things. Yes, you can say that BRTT, if this actually is vertical jungling, because it could also be that Canyon rocks across mid lane and then just secures his own red, or level 2 ganks Robo in the top lane.
Who's which lane, guys? As that is level 2 already, the flash, and that had to be respected. There was no way the Robo was going to survive if he had have been hit by that seismic shove. So already, Canyon, level 2, steals away a red buff, and immediately basically wins lane for Showmaker, who's in the top lane.
Yeah, but the sacrifice might be that Shrimp, you can see he is sprinting towards the other red buff. We'll see if Canyon lets it go, decides that, yep, he's just going to farm the top side. Okay. So the map is split now, where Damwon own the top side of it. So BRTT will be aggressive on this Caitlyn. You can see he's already zoned away Beryl and Nuclear. Now the thing is, though, is that Damwon don't play through the bot lane. If Nuclear and Beryl just have to kind of take the short end of the stick, then that's actually fine. Damwon can say, okay, you can have that free lane phase. That means that we get a free lane phase for guys like Showmaker on the top side in this Renekton matchup right now, which we believe that we can just snowball harder.
Great hook is going to land there onto Beryl. They're going to commit for it as well. So much damage. The flip back onto Lucy, but Beryl is just going to play it safe. Doesn't even use the flash. And eats the grey health, he's going to be okay. Up to 50% already.
Which then puts emphasis that if Lucy and BRTT find opportunities like that, it has to count. They need to make sure that if this is the advantage, if this is the trade that Damwon is giving them, that they need to find advantages down here. So with this slow crash, I would actually love to see Shrimp either threaten for plates or even potentially threaten a dive if these slow crashes keep getting built up.
Well, Showmaker level 3 does have access to Slice Dice and the Ruthless Predator, which could just spell death here. He goes for it, the flash in to try and guarantee, but Canyon presses his buttons in the wrong times. It doesn't even matter though. First blood goes down, and Damwon have struck first for the first time here at Worlds.
And it's going to be free for that, because Shrimp doesn't have any reason to be on the top side of the map. You can see he's playing with the Scuttle Crab right now. He does have access to his Krugs. But otherwise, his camps were all down. He was going to be spending time towards bot lane, which means that Showmaker can continue to play aggressive.
That's the flash in. Halo Blades needs to be respected, but the seismic shove is going to land. Robo is going to come down and does get there first, but still, Canyon trying to juke around. Goku gets on in there, and Showmaker, so much damage. The first kill does go over to Flamengo, but Robo is looking for another one. Noguri completely out of mana. What was he doing there? A double kill to Flamengo. Shrimp's on the board.
And this is so important. Again, remember, Damwon chose to split the map, and Shrimp has now broken and ripped it back. Don't play with that, though.
Yeah, Showmaker, a lot of damage, but didn't have flash, remember, so Shrimp tunnels away to safety.
Again, so important, though. You now have 2 kills onto Shrimp. Maybe he can start fighting back with this Hail of Blades Rek'Sai to get more control around the top side of the map to say that, okay, BRTT, Lucy, you guys are fine. You got the strong side of the map. Damwon have misplayed this, and now we can get our foot back into taking control over the top side of the map.
Well, you can see just outside of vision is Canyon, just looking to set up a tent on the top side. Robo not having a great time. They are ahead in gold, though. Those couple of kills certainly were good news. We're going to find the Ruthless Predator, though, as Canyon looking for it. Infernal Chains land, but it's going to be onto the Crocodile, and they don't even need the Seismic Shove until the very end. And another kill goes into the hands of the Talia.
And it's just frustrating. You can see it in the CS. It's 25-7. Reminder that it's Showmaker on the Renekton that's in the top side, but basically is 4 times the CS that Aatrox has right now. And now it's going to start bleeding into experience, and that is only going to go from bad to worse. But here was kind of the glimpse of hope. You can see that Flamengo, they're here to party. They're here to play. Yeah. They are not going to go quietly into the night. And like you said, you called out the mistake. Nuguri doesn't have any mana. He really can't participate in this fight, so he's just a body walking around.
Yeah.
And that leads to the double for Shrimp.
Yeah, and I really like the kills going on to Shrimp as well because he can translate this advantage that he'll have around the map, and stopping Canyon from being able to go wherever he wants willy-nilly is really important. Unfortunately, may not necessarily be the case, given that Canyon does have a couple of kills himself. Not quite at the Runic Echoes just yet. Shrimp also still building towards his Warrior enchant, as Noguri just playing as safely as he can. As Shrimp and Goku, this is frightening. We are going to get the flash forward. That's the Pop Blossom, and pop goes the Rise. All too easy for Flamengo as Showmaker, he wants it. It's a big call to me because now he's focusing on the Rek'Sai. He'll get that kill, and now Goku has to run away. A 1-for-1 after the teleport.
Still 1-for-1 in the TP, but that means that Robo finally gets a chance to breathe as well. So yes, Showmaker is continuing to snowball, continuing to get stronger, but Robo's finally getting access to a CS wave.
Frosker, and this is Canyon on the bottom side of the map. I've never seen this before as Beryl's going to dive forward, wants to get the stun. The seismic shove avoided just so narrowly. Lucy, oh god, the turnaround for Flamengo. Outplayed by the Brazilian bottom lane.
And so well done from Lucy. You called it, the sidestep right there. Turns around, finds the death sentence into the tower aggro, and Flamengo across the board have come alive. They have a gold lead above Damwon. Anyone saw this like LCK? They're gonna speedrun. It's a big accomplishment, Alex.
It was 100 gold, Frosker. Come on, that is not the stat that we want to focus
counts.
on. The fact that they are answering this team that is so happy to go toe-to-toe in the early game is just beautiful from this Brazilian squad. And you'll have Damwon sweating at this stage because they were confidence plays that were answered with the same level of confidence as Noguri. Caught in transition, the Hail of Blades certainly a problem. Sidestepping though, and that's a seismic shove you didn't want to get caught in. Beryl doesn't get the stun, but the fling back's there and the double kill comes down for Canyon.
And just like that, as we're celebrating, we're so happy to see
You gotta take the moments though, Frosker, okay?
Really hit back. Damwon Gaming suddenly find alive. They silence the arena. The gold lead has now swung wildly back into their favor, and Beryl was like, bot lane is not going well. I am heading mid. Nuclear, good luck.
And this is exactly what happens in the majority of games. You know how there were passengers in the first game for Damwon? Generally, it's Nuclear that's in the passenger seat and everybody else is just doing stuff. Just running around. He's seatbelt on, just being normal. You know, everything's absolutely fine, trying to pick up whatever farm he can. And Beryl is outside of that lane having a party.
Just hanging
Canyon
on the car. It's like
are
Mad Max.
Killing people as 3 versus 4, things like that around the map. And Nuclear doesn't really get to play with them. As we have a look at this one more time, this was just stunning
we
from
can
BRTT and Lucy.
relive the Flamengo heydays for that small moment that we had it with Lucy's outplay.
BRTT's response, yeah, that's right.
That's a man who knows how to work a crowd.
Damn right it is. But let's see if he can continue to do it as this is the same play. I was wondering whether this is back to live, but is just going to be a look at Canyon's double kill. Pretty elementary, honestly, in the end, as there are so many flips and flings from this squad. The Bone Skewer plus the Seismic Shove. Speaking of Bone Skewers, that's going to find Lucy, but avoids the stun. BRTT just offering auto after auto. It's only 1 pickaxe worth of damage, though. This is the problem. I mean, we always talk about Caitlyn being very strong in the laning phase early game, but then has this huge trough as you try and get towards damage relevance, and then you're back up again in the late game. But we are going to get towards that trough, and when it's BRTT that has it, that can be a problem because he is such a powerhouse for this squad. Bit of a dive topside though, as that's another seismic shove. You've got to be looking for them circles because that means death.
And it means that Flamengo needs to be able to trade something. And unfortunately, Damwon Gaming are going to have the option to consistently look for these top lane plays because the only objective that they would trade bot side is something like a Cloud Drake. So Flamengo need to push their advantage on this bot side of the map or try to create a larger one while Robo is just taking the brunt end of Showmaker.
Well, Cloud Drake is going to be taken here by Flamengo comfortably 10 minutes into the game. Now Shelly has reared her head in her own pit. We'll see whether we do get any swaps. Canyon was still topside, waiting for another counter gank as we are going to have Beryl. He face checks, the hook is going to land, the playback's in and he just explodes. Lucy grabs the kill, but that's another assist going over to BRTT.
So the play that Canyon and Showmaker were waiting for is they expected Robo to actually teleport up into the top side, and then they were immediately going to dive him again, pick up that gold, and then kill the tower. Robo actually instead walked down to the lane, and it looks like we're finally going to have the swap come in. You can see BRTT Lucy, they had that clever little trap play. They're now walking up top here, but Rift-Tailed is going to be the next objective on the table, and Showmaker after this back is going to be a really big deal. This is a very fed Gator.
He's even with his theoretical lane opponent, but he's almost double the CS of Robo, who's had a really rough time. Back is going to get channeled, but Goku going to stop it, so a little bit of a spanner in the works there.
And it just means that Flamengo have to be now very creative about how they want to contest this Herald if they do. Because Showmaker will make his back, he's going to be very strong. Spear of Shojin now comes back in, and as long as he's there, like, Robo doesn't count as a person right now. He's got a Kindle Gem and some brown bags on his feet.
He's got the soldier build plus an orb.
Yeah, he needs time to scale up. So this should actually be, if it's just clinical setup, a free objective for Damwon, and then there's just really nothing on the map that Flamengo can trade for it. So at this point, Flamengo want to either figure out how they can break this either through a pick or try to stall it out. Otherwise, Damwon are like, let's get this Rift out, let's continue to snowball on this Renekton, and as long as he's there, we are so much stronger.
Yep, Noguri with his teleport available. Showmaker's about to come back up, but that means Noguri is going to have bottom lane duty up against Robo there. So finally, we see top laners actually meet after our weird lane swap that we had earlier on. And it's 2.5k the lead. You can see the kill score is very even, but that first turret blood going down and all of the plates that Damwon have been able to take and the lack thereof on the side of Flamengo is really ballooning this one a little bit out of control. Still not out of the woods just yet on Flamengo's side, and they will have opportunities as this game goes on because, like we were talking about before, the way they play their composition, the way this composition is supposed to work, there are ways that they can attack the low range of Damwon like you illustrated earlier on.
Yeah, but that means that BRTT, again, needs to be ahead of the clock. And if you look at the total gold, he is very far down in terms of what the itemization has. You talked about the fact that he didn't get any plates in return. So this still feels like a very heavy win for Damwon Gaming as far as this early game is concerned.
And has rushed the Spear of Sojin as well. We've seen a lot of Black Cleavers, we've seen some tank Renektons, but this is Showmaker wanting to be able to be a Showmaker in some of these team fights in this mid game.
And Spear Sojin's just so strong because you talk about team fight and the fact that it gives Renekton really strong team fighting, but also just makes him a great duelist as well. Like best of both worlds.
Allows him to do lots of stuff when he presses R. Here's the TLDR. And Shelly gets her eye poked out and will now get taken down. Canyon will have his choice on where to put it, and I have a feeling that mid lane could be an opportunity as Beryl goes underwater, looks for Goku, but doesn't get him, dodges out of the way and is going to survive as Shelly is just plugged into the river and will now set up for a charge on this outer turret mid. Minion waves are going to crash, but charge, is it actually going to get set up? Because you can see minions getting in the way for the moment, but it looks like Flamengo not going to be able to get rid of her. She will get that charge off successfully and gather some more of that plate gold.
Yeah, but just a plate gank right there. Flamengo successfully collapsed around their mid lane tower to make sure that it didn't translate into the objective. But that's what we were talking about with Damwon. Using the Rift Herald, continuing to snowball, getting that gold on necessary characters. And now we can start kicking them out into their side lanes and testing Flamengo's lane assignments. Because I don't actually know who can survive with Showmaker's Renekton at this point.
Especially Noguri slowly but surely is building towards his Seraph's Embrace. We'll see what he goes for next, but he has decided to just rush that item. But we know that the last time I saw Noguri's rise, he just sort of sat in a side lane and destroyed his lane opponent as far as the farm is concerned and things like that. And then at about 25, 27 minutes, won the game by himself.
And I think that's kind of going to be the formation from Damwon, at least what they're looking to do here. It's going to be...
Okay, Pop Blossom comes in. Immediately the flash from Noguri, though, as he's trying to turn it around. 1 versus 2. This guy's a madman. And Flamengo are just going to run for the hills.
It's going to be a setup where you have Noguri and either Canyon or Beryl with him, and then Showmaker with either Canyon or Beryl. You have kind of these 2 roaming pieces in your Taliyah and your Pyke, and then your 2 solo laners. And they're just going to force the lane assignments from Flamengo. And Flamengo are making the right call, trying to look for those picks like that, you know, using the Nico ult, trying to find the flash, trying to catch anyone out. But if they don't capitalize on it, they are still slowly losing the map.
Well, Ocean Drake going to be the first dragon that Damwon are going to go for. Of course, we got very used to Oceans with our, I believe, 8 of them that we had yesterday. It was a ludicrous amount of Ocean Drakes. No, it was only 7. Only 7. We were spared, but Ocean Drake going to go over to Damwon. They gather it just to cycle towards the next one, which will be the Mountain Drake.
And now we're entering this trough for Flamengo, where their only options were to look through picks with this this Nico and her CC setup. Gonna try it
If first
again.
you don't succeed, bring a friend and try again as Nogari, 4 people around him, and he should get taken down, but Seraph's had completed. He survives for a little bit longer, and now Showmaker jumps on top of Shrimp. Pop Blossoms there, finds no one as Beverly looks for the reset, but doesn't get it. The Void Seeker comes from the back end, and Nuclear locks him down as Showmaker is underneath the turret, feeling comfortable, but now Robo's turned up. If he gets some of these kills, it's going to be so huge, but he can't find any. Finally, the root comes in, and Goku locks down Barrel.
And that is exactly what Flamengo needed. They force the play again. They say, this is our only option. We have to throw everything in the kitchen sink, and they find it.
Oh, BRTT caught out. No, it's okay. Land. But were we expecting, Frosker, and I'm sorry to cut you off, were we expecting this game to be this heart racing? Because Damwon, once again, very, very even when we're trudging through the mid game.
So here's my thing. When teams like to fight a lot, which Damwon does sometimes have that reputation, you can't just have like a timeout, like a gentleman's agreement, and say, no, can we just slow down a little bit? Like if a team wants to step 2, the only option that you have is actually to match. And it's kind of why when you watch like the G2s and the Fnatics, the FPXs, like when you have an LPL team in a game, it's probably going to look really bloody and really messy, but that's just kind of the nature of it. You don't get to play slow against that type of style. So I like the fact that both teams are willing to get dirty and throw some punches here.
Yeah, if you can force that style, it is certainly worthwhile, as Robo does dive on over. Nogari and Canyon certainly forces to be reckoned with, but not going to go 2 versus 2 in this instance. And Goku's going to successfully save his top laner. 0, 3, and 4 on the Aatrox, but he has been able to claw back a few more of them minions.
Now the thing is,
Oh dear.
while plays like this are working and they are killing people into the side lanes, it's not necessarily translating into objectives for Flamengo. It is a proactive play that doesn't turn into a tower or a dragon or a baron. And it's also expending a lot of cooldowns, a lot of teleports, and a lot of flashes. And so, unfortunately, it means that you're missing those vital cooldowns when a team fight that Damwon happened to win is around an objective like a tower, a dragon, and a baron. And I feel like that's been the story of this game so far, that Flamengo are finding these windows, they are winning some of these fights, but it's not at the right time to maximize what they're taking away.
I feel like Damwon want to start a fight at the moment because there are no flashes. On Brazil's side, Nuclear, the only man on the map that does have one available. He is getting towards his Rage Blade, slowly but surely, but sneaking away that kill was certainly good for the Kai'Sa that has been outranged this entire game. Damwon closing in onto Goku, but a bit slippery on the Nico, and isn't going to be dying here.
I think they're going to dive BRTT.
Well, can they actually do so, as we've got another dive coming in, as Nogari's spotted on the Tremor Sense. Gets himself away far enough.
They're looking for the Talia ultimate, or threatening with it, so this is a really good response from Shrimp and Lucy, that they, Damwon have lost members where Flamengo are, so they're respecting the potential that Flamengo have brought the resources, but it does buy time in the end for Damwon's Showmaker to get the spot tower.
Yep, Showmaker going to be the one that makes that play worthwhile for Damwon. Of course, Nogari forcing so much pressure there on that top side. You can see still surrounded by Flamengo members, even if it is just 2 of them. But it is going to be just that transition through the jungle, but it is a focus on the top side. Canyon just moves to the bottom lane. They're going to destroy an inner turret and possibly threaten Inhib at this point in time, because there's a lot of damage here available.
And this is the formation that Damwon are going to continue to throw out. Again, it's pairing up either the support or the jungler with this Renekton somewhere, or with the Rise, and attacking the side lanes. So Flamengo are trying to find places that they can hole punch into Damwon Gaming's side lane setup. So again, they need these team fights, but it needs to mean more. They can't just find these scrappy fights, kill a couple of people, while their map and their gold and their minions are being eaten up, and Damwon are, again, continuing to create a larger and larger gold lead.
And it feels like a bit of a gentleman's agreement between these 2 teams. You can see topside vision all completely owned by Flamengo. They've got red wards, even littering the blue side jungle of Damwon Gaming themselves, but that whole top side is well known to them. Bottom side of the map, however, is all about Damwon Gaming. And we'll see who that's going to benefit, because 20 minutes has ticked over. My money is on Flamengo working out as 1 second, and now a Mountain Drake is on the map. The first one that feels good for either of these teams. 2.6k, something like that, is not a gold lead that you can really hang your hat on. As Beryl going to be face checking, gets snared up immediately, but that's a great bone skewer as Shrimp goes gold and wants to take the Lenton, but can't. Great timing on the shove there as Lucy going to be taken down so damn low, and Nuclear dives into the back line. Blast code is god tier, and I don't think it's enough as just the edge of the Culvermeek there from Showmaker locks down the kill. Good side step, but the root's in, and BRTT is going to be taken down. Pop Blossom under 3 members. It's a big one, but the death from below is going to be in, and Showmaker locks down the Nico as well. The flash from Nogari is so beautiful as he navigates the fight, and now they move back to the Mountain Drake.
Just so well executed from Damwon right there. They are so powerful. Even Nuclear, who really struggled in that lane phase. Look at BRTT's itemization comparatively to that Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa, normally a 2-item power spike champion. The rapid fire wasn't completed in the last fight. BRTT completed it upon death. And that's the reality of Flamengo. They could fight in that window, but it was such a vital dragon of the Mountain Drake. So they attempted to do so anyway. And this is the right play. Look for a pick, because that's the only way you can win the team fight at this point in the game due to the item power spikes. But they didn't find the pick, and then Damwon just cut, divide, herded them around and directly into a meat grinder. Just really beautifully executed on multiple fronts.
Yeah, and watching Canyon here as well is just stunning. The seismic shove timing initially was beautiful. This one made sure BRTT was out of the way. Nogari gets himself the root down very comfortably. And Goku, despite the fact that this was very well timed on the Pop Blossom, it was too little too late at that stage of the game. And yeah, Nogari's out of there. Still closer than Damwon would have wanted, but at this stage, they've now extended it to a 6,000 gold lead. And I mean, I don't want to make old references, things like that, but if you look back at old worlds when teams are trying to take on the titans like SKT in their heyday, it was this feeling of, yes, we're making plays, we're trying to get stuff, but it just never feels like enough. And that's what it's starting to feel like here this game, despite the early game that worked well. And now Showmaker, remember, he can stun so many times, but after the Dominus, wasn't able to close the distance to get another Ruthless Predator. And Robo survives with his splash up.
But I think point made for Robo and Showmaker right there. That is going to continue to be how Damwon split up the map and pull Flamengo around. We are basically waiting on BRTT. That's the next big moment where Flamengo fans can start to feel more confident in their team again.
And it's going to take a while. I mean, I feel like Caitlyn is either a 3 or 4 item carry. You really do need to invest to try and get her there.
Unfortunately, I think because Renekton is so far ahead right now and he's able to get some of his defensive-ish itemization out, that it's actually going to be a 4-item Caitlyn because she's going to need access to more DPS than just the 3-item.
Yeah, I think Mikura's Scimitar will need to come in, and we'll see what else BRTT is going to go for.
I will say at this point in the game, Caitlyn doesn't necessarily have to be that big team fighting threat. With the rapid fire cannon and then just headshot, she can actually be used as a poke champion, like what she just did to Nuclear right there. But then that means that our eyes are on Shrimp and Goku as kind of the follow-up. So if BRTT right now is literally just a poke machine, you need Shrimp and Goku to follow up on that poke damage.
Well, there's ults traded here between Showmaker and Robo, but I like it. Just gets the heck out of there as soon as he sees the ultimate button, because it does a whole lot more with that Spear of Sojourn online. Speaking of items that are online, Nogari does have his Spellbinder.
He needs to be really careful.
Showmaker. He's hungry for some Caitlyn. Not going to get him as Lucy tagged by the Void Seeker.
I think they're in trouble.
Yep, Canyon, he can set up a wall if he wants to. He's holding on to the button for the moment. It was looking really dangerous there for Flamengo, but they do survive the storm. 2 minutes, and we've got a Cloud Drake on the board, and the Baron is still not really being looked at by either side. No wards inside the pit, but you can see Damwon with a lot of control wards around it. Nogari very comfortably just farming minion wave after minion wave. Just going to soon be that Rise threat that we know he can be.
So I felt that they were waiting for specific itemization to come in. So Showmaker has just now completed his 3rd item. And so normally when you see a team, especially one as practiced as Damwon in their Baron setup, not turn towards the Baron, it feels like they're almost extending the the farming portion of the game and saying, okay, as soon as I get this item, like I'm close to it, we might as well wait for it before they start setting up the fight. So I think that's what is about to happen. We now have the backs in from Damwon from all of this farming that they've been doing. You have Showmaker, who is setting up the bot lane wave, has access to his TP, and it's going to be the setup for the Baron in the next 30 seconds to probably a minute and a half. And Flamengo recognize this. They're like, okay, you know, we can no longer deal with this side lane threat. We need to quickly get in here, place as much vision as possible, and then again, stall out this potential Baron.
Well, that's a great block there on the Bone Skewer with the shape shifter coming out from Goku. But you can see Renekton has pushed that minion wave all the way towards the inhibitor turret. Is now Lucy tagged once again. There's a fair bit of damage actually coming out of Nuclear as well.
Showmaker's behind them.
Judges forward. Yep, seismic shove once again, flashed by BRTT, but how is he supposed to save himself as the wall comes down? He's just going to walk behind his team. He will survive for the moment. Showmaker closing in on the back line, but not close enough. Very, very rough. But it is a Flamengo team that were able to avoid the engage.
I'm going to say that I think Canyon's ultimate actually close Showmaker around from the flank, but they immediately used the Rise ultimate. They're now on the Baron. That is a Mountain Drake.
Yep, Realm Walk towards the Baron pit. We'll see whether they got enough damage, and they certainly do. The Baron is dead in about 4 seconds. And Lucy now flashing to try and get a play, but misses the hook. It's a fight on a couple of fronts as Nogari's trying to get out of the way as the Seraph Shield is gigantic. The rest of the fight is going well, though, as the Rek'Sai does eventually take down the Rise. But now the resets. The Pop Blossom comes forward, but it's under a Golden Canyon as Robo's down to about half. Shrimp is out of this fight, but Goku's landing the snares. Can he get it again? No, he can't. He's diced up by the Crocodile as Canyon out of mana, just driving by Nuclear. Grabs that kill off the back end, and it's an ace out of nowhere for Damwon, but it looked so close at the beginning to being good for Flamengo.
Except when you put your eyes down on Showmaker, who just watched through this replay, this man is like 1v3 at some points, 1v2 for majority of it, but just no one can stop him. Look at the damage that he's doing. Robo and Shrimp are just playing with this giant gator while his carries are being obliterated.
That was the problem, and it felt like there was a bit of tunneling onto Nogari there, which allowed Showmaker to get so much free damage unanswered. And I can't even blame Flamengo for that, because you look at Nogari's name, you're like, I want to get him out of the team fight before he does so much DPS like you can do on the Rise. And unfortunately, despite the game plan being understandable, it didn't work out, because like you say, when you've just got the backlines fighting each other, just wasn't good enough. Speaking of not good enough, this is what happens. The damage trough that BRTT is in right now, that low damage number is purely based on the champion that he is at this stage of the game.
It was felt like a handshake from Damwon to split the map. Looked good for Flamengo when, you know, Shrimp picked up those 2 kills, but otherwise it has just been all downhill for Showmaker versus Robo in that top lane. And because, again, Renekton is so far ahead of the clock, BRTT doesn't need 3 items, he needs 4 items before he can even do any damage to Showmaker. And unfortunately, Flamengo just don't have the damage to deal with Damwon's threats right now.
Yeah, and we talk about the Caitlyn and trying to get online at 4 items and things like that, but if the game is accelerated out of your control, you look at Damwon and they've got Rise. Massive late game damage, and Nuclear is the AP Kai'Sa already has those first 3 items that you need in the Nash's Tooth, the Rage Blade, and the completed Muramana. Now with a pretty cool stick on top of it as well in the needlessly large rod, just boosting up that Void Seeker damage. You can see Lucy taking a lot of poke from this particular Kai'Sa as they've split the map. You've got a Crocodile top lane, you've got a Kai'Sa mid lane, and the rest of them are hanging around the bottom side. Robo caught behind the wall, wants to Umbral dash in, but not going to be able to. Has to take a Lantern in order to get out Showmaker. In the meantime, 1v1 against Goku, but is he going to be able to get held down? That's what this comp could theoretically do. The Column-Meek is gigantic. The rest of the team coming on over. It's a 1-for-1 so far, as the death from below did register lots of money as Nogari picks up yet another kill. But the towers are crumbling, and it's too little too late from Flamengo.
There's 1 inhib, looks to be followed by 2 more. Damwon could look for the end here.
Yeah, Lucy just dies as an afterthought. As Robo now snared up Nogari underneath turrets. He loves it here. That seems like his natural habitat. Getting towards the fountain, the pullback beautiful by Beryl, but Robo does have some of the damage still available. Gets one of them. It's just not enough. Flamengo on their fountain. Nuclear now playing gatekeeper as Nexus turrets are getting destroyed. There are 4 billion minions as they're on the fountain. Robo is taken down as the minions are tanking up. out the damn fountain laser! As now Goku's going to fall. Nuclear's going to use his flash because he may as well. And finally, the Nexus gets its due. Damwon 2-0 on their first day.
And with a fountain play like that, you can tell that Damwon are really feeling themselves right now.
I feel like it's still the European holiday, Frosker, and sort of what we coined it in their first day out. This is a Damwon having fun, but Nuclear will be having way more fun after that performance. Brilliant on the Kaiser, undying after being a bit of a problem factor in their matchup against Royal Youth. Was definitely dominance, was landing the Void Seekers that he needed to. And this is what we expected about this, from this Damwon squad. We really wanted to see them come out and dominate because this is Korea for the first time in the play-in stage. We need to show the world why that shouldn't be a thing.
But now you have a really good measuring stick of Royal Youth and Flamengo versus Damwon. And frankly, it felt like Flamengo were willing to go a lot more kind of tit for tat against the LCK seed. And so I think that's what most people are going to be looking at the tape of and trying to figure out as we kind of speed towards that matchup. Because it was very clear, LCK probably going to be the #1 seed out of this group. But with Royal Youth and Flamengo, two teams that a lot of analysts are saying are hyper competitive in the emerging regions, like that's where the real trial is going to come here.
Yeah, that really is, it feels like the group of death, right? I don't want any of these teams to be eliminated from this group. And the thing that I find really interesting is the fact that we haven't actually learnt that much as far as who's going to win the eye test between these two, because both Royal Youth and Flamengo had different strategies in mind when it came to tackling Damwon. Neither of them necessarily worked, but there was merit on both sides.
And it's also just so hard to gauge the top laners. Arma and Robo both didn't really have the greatest time. Arma, I think, felt a little bit better in terms of what he was transferring into team fights, whereas Robo just got shut out so early in the game by kind of design of what happened with the vertical jungling. So my eyes are actually going to be on the top lane and what seems to be a group defined by the solo laners and by the top laners in particular.
Yeah, and I guess a lot has to be said for what Ender was talking about as well at the beginning, with the fact that Damwon came in, looked shaky in game one. It is understandable that they would look even more formidable moving into their second match here at Worlds. So in theory, if both Flamengo and Royal Youth looked about the same, then Flamengo need a few added props, especially after the draft phase, because I felt like Damwon's draft this game was really, really nice.
Yeah, I think back to the drawing board, it's pretty easy to maybe not go for the Caitlyn. I understand like trying to find a dominant lane phase, and not that BRTT can't play it, but I would have loved to see him more on something like a Lucian and have a lot more aggression in the lane phase.
Well, certainly more opportunities for Flamengo. To learn more about how Canyon and Damwon snowballed top lane, let's check in with Ender at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Atlas. Now, I wanted to give all of you at home a quick tutorial on how to make the enemy top laner want to rage quit from the game, because that's exactly what Canyon did in this one against poor Robo. And it starts at level 1 here, because Damwon really want to get the right solo lane matchups for their two players. Showmaker on the Renekton really wants to play up against the Aatrox. It's a much more favorable matchup for him than against the likes of the Nico. And Ryze is going to do very well in that ranged versus ranged matchup. So right off the bat at level 1, Damwon have this early game plan. And the plan is run into the enemy jungle. Now this ward here from Shrimp only sees Showmaker. They only see one person walk into the top side of this jungle, and it gets even worse because even though Damwon do leave, they only see Nuguri this next time, so they're still not sure if there's actually an invade happening. Now, on the bottom side of the map, Shrimp was actually starting on his wolf camp to try and path towards the top side of the map and then go for that quick level 3 and play top side. But instead, this level 2 gank comes through. Robo hasn't even seen Showmaker in the lane, but instantly is forced to lose his flash. And this is where everything goes downhill for him, because you will notice right now that there are 4 ranged minions in this this lane, pushing towards the side of Damwon. So Showmaker is allowed to play super disrespectfully and virtually just walk between the minions and Robo. Robo is unable to CS whatsoever. As soon as he ticks over to level 2, it gets even worse. And at this point, because of Canyon going for that enemy red buff and stealing that away, you'll notice that Shrimp had to go from his wolves down to that bot side of the map. This is something I was talking about a little bit earlier on in the day, where after the map is split, all of a sudden it becomes so miserable to play top lane when your lane is pushing out and you don't have a jungler nearby. Still, Robo's like, okay, I can stand near the minion wave, get some experience, even if I'm never going to get a last hit. But then it all goes wrong again. Level 3 now for Canyon, even though they miss literally everything, they're still able to get the kill because they have that much damage and Robo doesn't have his flash. So now he's like, okay, great. I have to TP back in, but the lane is messed up once more. Now, I will say at this point, Damwon do make a bit of a mistake. They go for this fight in River and Showmaker still hasn't recalled. The lane is pushing in, so it is Robo who's able to get this rotation down into the river first. And also, Nuguri doesn't have any mana on that Rise that he's playing in the mid lane. So this fight goes a little bit awry for them. They definitely lose out on this, but coming out of the play, they're able to turn it around once again. So bad play from them for sure, but Robo's lane still miserable. And guess what? Those wave clear nerfs, they're hurting right now because he can't actually bounce the wave in time. It takes him so long to kill those minions that the next wave is able to arrive. And now guess what? Even with a ward in the river, you still have a lane that is permanently frozen against you. This is great lane management from Showmaker, even though he's in the top lane, and it sets up for yet another kill. And at just 5 minutes on the clock, Showmaker is now up almost 30 CS and 700 gold. He still hasn't even recalled yet. Robo has died twice. That is absolutely miserable. I wouldn't even want to play in that game if I was Robo. And it ended up being Canyon and Showmaker, that duo, helping push that game forward and get that win. Now, because of his early pathing and carry performance, Damwon's jungler is our Oppo player of the game, as he and the rest of their team look to be on their way towards the world's group stage. Now, when we return, Loki Esports and the VCS, they make their world's debut, so don't go anywhere.